Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to the Graduate School COSI workshop. We have our guest speaker today, Aolany with the Graduate School. And Aolany, I'll hand it over to you to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Aolany Navas-Griggs. I am the Director of Strategic Initiatives here in the Graduate School. So we'll be talking about graduate school, period. I will talk a little bit about our programs, but this is really just for any graduate program if you're interested for that in the future. Okay, so taking education to the next level. First, we're going to go through a quick overview of what a graduate school does. So a graduate school, think of it as like a hub that keeps track of all the graduate programs, which are anything after a bachelor's degree. So we keep track of policies and procedures. We work with different academic units, with enrollment management, pretty much everybody within the university to make sure that our programs are, being funneled through appropriately. Students are getting admitted, getting their degrees when they complete their coursework. All of that is kind of like a centralized graduate school. For types of graduate programs, so we have master's degrees, doctoral programs, and professional degree programs. And this is just in general, not necessarily saying that we have these here at CSU Pueblo. So for master's degrees, you're looking at finishing those between 1 to 2 years, where you'll be learning a little bit more about the advanced knowledge within a specific field for 1 to 2 years. And then a doctoral degree is a little bit more in depth. So that one takes a little bit longer. It'll take 3 to 7 years, depending on which field you go into. And doctoral degrees can be doctors of philosophy. That's where you see the PhD. So what that means is that people or researchers have gone the extent of developing research questions, hypotheses, and all of these things to kind of test it. Is there a question? No. Okay. And then we also have the Doctor of Education. So that is for anybody that's within education. There's not really a lot of philosophy into that. So it's just a little bit of more research, but very specific to K through 12 or higher education. We actually have an educational leadership program here at CSU Pueblo, which I am part of. So a lot of what that entails is I'm trying to figure out best practices and doing research on higher education practices. So anything from graduate level and up is what I've been focusing on. So there's a little bit of difference between a PhD and an EDD. And then, of course, we have doctors of medicine. So those are very practical programs. So that's how you get your doctors. So medicine, dentists, and all that other stuff. That's very, very specific. And then professional degree programs is what we call our terminal degrees. So, for example, if you want to be a judge, an attorney, or anything like that, then you go to those professional degree programs like the JD, a doctor of dental medicine. So they're very specific programs. Here at CSU Pueblo, we have over 13 graduate degrees. Some of these include athletic training. In the STEM side, we have biology, chemistry, biochemistry. Education is a big one, social work, engineering. So these are very specific programs. We also have the Master's of Business Administration, which is actually considered a terminal degree for that field. So people that work in business don't necessarily need to go into a doctoral program. They could, it just wouldn't be in business. And if I believe some institutions are coming out with a doctor of business, but they're not that common. So I just wanted to put that out there because we do have an MBA that's very healthy. So if that's something that students are looking for in the future, that's definitely an option. Here at CSU Pueblo, we also have what's called the 3+2 programs. Hopefully you guys are aware of those, particularly in athletics training, biochemistry, biology, business, cannabis, chemistry, construction management, engineering, exercise science, and health science. So the biggest benefit of a 3+2 program is the pay. So you're doing your bachelor's and your master's in 5 years paying undergraduate tuition, and that is huge. So I try to advocate for that as much as possible. And if you guys have any questions about 3+2, please feel free to reach out to me. So now let's get into some of the benefits of graduate school. So of course, we're going to start with specialized knowledge and expertise. So pursuing an advanced degree, such as a master's or a PhD, can allow you to dive deep into a specific field that you're passionate about. So for me, that was higher education. I did my undergraduate in healthcare administration. Definitely not something that I was very passionate about, but higher education was. So I went and got my master's in higher ed to understand it and specialize in that field a little bit better. It also allows for career advancement, because many careers today require at least a master's or above, typically depending on what kind of job you're trying to get into. A master's degree also means a higher earning potential. So some employers will actually pay for you to get your master's degree or your PhD, and they can actually pay for it. Not only pay for it, once you earn it, they're willing to negotiate your salary. So really, it is all about advancing yourself in the career. It also provides networking opportunities, which the more that I dive into this higher education world, the more I realize that networking is very important. It is all about who you know and how you know them and what connections you can make between, careers to grow together. So that's all that networking is. And then personal growth and challenge. That's one of the reasons why I'm pursuing a doctoral degree, is because of my own personal growth and challenge. Nobody is making me do that. A lot of people don't willingly go into this unless they're very passionate about a certain topic. So preparing for graduate school. So some of the steps involve identifying your goals and interests, making sure that you're researching graduate programs. Once you're at that point, I would say either your junior or senior year, you should be actively researching graduate programs if that's something that you're interested in doing, especially if you're looking at going into dentist school, anything very practical like that. You should be looking at those opportunities your junior or senior year, if not earlier. And that's just so that you can make sure that you're meeting the prerequisites to get into these programs, such as standardized testing, which is the next one. Certain GPAs need to be met and all of that. Very practical things that go into getting a master's degree. So it's very important that the decision to pursue a master's degree aligns with your career goals, your interests, and your financial considerations. So please make sure to evaluate your options and consider whether the investment of your time and money is practical, or if you need to kind of modify the way that you approach graduate school. For the application process, where to start? Always make sure that you have a track of all of your transcripts. So most, if not all, graduate programs will require that you submit official transcripts of your conferred bachelor's degree. So making sure that you have a bachelor's, that's the main objective of that. Letters of recommendation. So that's where that networking really comes into place. So that you can reach out to faculty, administrators, people that you worked with doing your undergrad. They can write letters of recommendation for you. They're the ones that can speak to the potential of you being successful in a graduate program. That's really what we're looking for, is making sure that you are in a place where you feel like you can successfully go through a 2-year program. Making sure that your resume or your vita are updated and accurate with employment dates and your degrees, certificates, anything that you were a part of during your undergraduate degree, and then test scores. So one thing about test scores, so the biggest ones are GMAT, GRE, and there's a couple more I can't think of straight off my head, but a lot of institutions are actually moving away from this. So keep that in mind. So if you're looking at, let's say, 3 programs and one of them doesn't even have you go take a GMAT or a GRE, it's worth looking at. These tests tend to be a little expensive, and you just have to do a lot of studying. So if you can skip that barrier, that would be good in your advantage, but as well, it's all up to you, depending on what you want to do with test scores. But I just wanted to put that out there, that a lot of institutions are moving into that test optional. And what they do is, instead of doing a GMAT, for example, our MBA instead of doing the GMAT, they would allow you to do a business 500 level course where you learn about writing and business language and all of that so that you don't have to take the GMAT. So that's just an example. Financial considerations, which is typically the topic that I spend most of the time talking to students about. So paying for graduate school, preparing for that financial commitment. So for the cost of graduate education it includes your tuition and fees. So make sure that you're thinking about tuition and fees, the cost of living, and then your textbooks and supplies. So graduate education costs, they vary very widely depending on the institution and program. Always remember, so same with undergraduate, your residency matters. So if you're going to an out-of-state tuition for a graduate program, is going to be almost double the tuition and fees that you would as if you were to stay in your where you're from. It's essential to research and understand the costs associated with your desired program, because beyond the tuition, you also have to consider the cost of living. So once you're in graduate school, this is typically where you're also trying to become a full-time worker. Some students decide to be a full-time graduate student, and that's okay. We'll talk a little bit about that here in a second. But at this point, you are considered an adult, so you're looking at full-time jobs. There's families involved. There's a lot of things, transportation, food, that are kind of expensive. So make sure that you put all that into a budget, including your graduate education. And then also don't forget to factor out textbooks and supplies for those courses. Some funding options include scholarships. So these are very valuable. Of course, I'm sure you guys know, because a lot of you get either the PHEF or DSF. So same as graduate programs often do also have scholarship opportunities. A lot of these will be need-based or merit-based. So making sure that you continue to fill out your FAFSA every year is crucial, because if you're applying for any scholarship that is need-based, they're going to need that FAFSA on file to be able to give you any funding if you were to be awarded. With assistantships, and this is where we get into, like, if you're wanting to be a full-time graduate student, assistantships really work well. So these provide students with financial support while offering valuable experiences. So these are, for example, teacher assistants, research assistants, and even administrative assistants. Over here at CSU Pueblo, we just call them graduate assistants. So these typically come with a stipend instead of getting, it's almost like a work study, but for example, here at CSU Pueblo, we have stipends for TAs, GAs, and RAs, and they're an equivalent to almost $6,000 a semester. And they're just a stipend that we give to the student as part of their commitment to help the professors in the classroom if they're teaching assistants, help professors in the research if they're doing any research. And then some academic units make it into graduate assistants, where you kind of just help with the administrative work of that graduate program. When it comes to grants, some institutions have certain grants that we qualify for. For example, here we are a Hispanic serving institution, so that gives us the opportunity to apply for certain grants that other institutions wouldn't. So that means that we have, for example, POPOA is a big one that we have. And I've actually awarded that for the first time this semester, and I plan on continuing that work. So it'll be once a semester, this application will come out. And if you have your FAFSA on file, you have unmet need, meet, good academic standing, so on and so forth. There's other things that go into it, then you can apply and automatically get some of that funding. We also have like a Colorado student grant, which is also part of the undergraduate experience. We also have the similar option for graduate students if the money allows. Excuse me. And then we have student loans. I know a lot of us try to stay away from student loans, and yes, please do that to the best that you can. But they do serve as another option for funding. And this is, I would say, this is more like if everything else is insufficient, then you can go into some student loans, and making sure that you try to spend some of the federal student loans. That's why, again, that FAFSA is very important, because those interest rates are way lower than anywhere else. We also have work study programs here at CSU Pueblo, for example, and this could be at anywhere else. Graduate students aren't often packaged with a work study amount in their FAFSA, but if you go to your financial aid advisor, they can actually work in what that work study amount would be. So you could qualify for some work study if you don't get an assistantship. And then lastly, we have fellowships. So those are similar to scholarships and can provide financial support to just only graduate students. So these are very like competitive, and they require a lot of separate applications, a lot of letters of recommendation. So these are very, kind of think of it as like a study abroad option, but a little bit more extensive. So for example, I have no students that have done fellowships from Harvard. I actually got to meet one that's doing some work here in Pueblo. So she got a fellowship being a Harvard fellowship. So she gets to work with the city council and everything higher up. And then she gets to do that work, get that experience, put it in her resume. And then she has to provide a big project or big presentation towards the end of her fellowship to then give it to those that award the fellowship. This comes with stipends, and like the experiences are very they're good for your resume. They're really good opportunities. So if you have any questions about fellowships, you're interested in applying for that in the future, feel free to reach out to myself if you're doing graduate studies here, or reaching out to the graduate school wherever you do decide to go. We're almost to the end. So are there any questions right now that I can help answer? Okay. And then more funding options. So we have budgeting, loan repayment, and return on investment. So when you're creating a budget, it is crucial to manage your finances during graduate school. So carefully calculate your income, expenses, and any expected debt repayment. If you need to take out loans, make sure that you're researching loan repayment options and consider your post-graduation financial situation. And just so that you know, federal loans often offer income-driven repayment plans, which is probably the fastest way that you can pay back on some of those loans. And then also return on investment. So always consider the potential for the ROI. You'll hear that a lot, especially if you're in business. So consider the potential for return on investment of your graduate degree. So think about how your increased earning potential and career opportunities might offset the cost of education. So for those jobs, like I said, that are willing to pay for your master's, is probably because there's an incentive to get you to a next level position where they can pay more, or just be able to pay you more if you just get that master's degree or doctorate degree, whatever the case might be. And that's pretty much all I have. It's pretty short because I try to keep these very open to the public to ask questions. So feel free to ask away. Oh yes, and PHDF does have a graduate scholarship. I found that out a couple of weeks ago. So their portal, it looks like it says that they don't, but you can still go ahead and apply for those. I think the stipulation is still that you're from a Colorado high school or that you're from Colorado. So I know that there's some stipulations there.
You do have to be an in-state student to receive the PHEF, but yeah, they do have a graduate one. And that one's been very helpful.
It is very, I didn't know about that. I'm not from Colorado, so I often don't apply for that many scholarships because working here at CSU Pueblo, we qualify for tuition reimbursement. So I don't like to get into the nitty-gritty of that. But those are things to be on the lookout for whenever you, let's say that you have an employer, look at to see what benefits they have, like if they're willing to pay for your graduate degree or something like that, because most places do.
Certainly. Do you know what some of the prereqs are for like athletic training, or because I know that's a big one for some of the COSI students?
Yes, athletics training. I know one of the biggest things is those 50 hours of clinicals that they have to show. Once you're applying, for example, to our program, you just have to fill out this form that says I completed my 50 hours with so-and-so. These were the dates, and then I believe the program director reaches out to that point of contact to verify that the hours were completed. That's like the biggest piece. 2 letters of recommendations from any faculty, advisor, anybody that can speak to your ability to be in the graduate program, and then just transcripts. Mhm.
You know when the deadline is to apply for the next semester?
So we're spring right now, so we are on a rolling basis for the majority of the time. But I tell students, we now that I think about it, we don't have a lot of programs that start in the spring. They mainly start in the fall. So making sure that you have that application by February 1st is important. That allows you to have time to apply for the foundation scholarship, which I forgot to mention that we also have graduate scholarships within the foundation. So the same way that you're applying for the undergraduate foundation is the same way that you apply for a graduate foundation scholarship.